Hey guys, APFC here. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Today's video is previewing the Bournemouth Arsenal game, which it is 11:33 p.m. Australian time. We kick off at 7 a.m., which means in just over 7 hours we will be kicking off this FA Cup fixture. A trophy, a tournament that we have been very successful in. In fact, we are the most successful FA Cup side, as you probably all know, as we have won the FA Cup 13 times. Bournemouth have only made it out of the fourth round once in their history. So, based off form, although our form has not been fantastic this season, I still give us a good chance to get the job done. Yes, we will probably be rotating the squad. I think Bournemouth will be looking to play a full strength side, although they have a lot of players out at the moment. Got some of these players here that they have injured. They still have Josh King injured, and he's a big loss for them because he's been one of their better players over the last 2 seasons or so. He's a key figure in this side. Brooks is injured as well. They've also got Daniels out. So it's not really been a great season for them. Obviously, they're languishing around the relegation zone in the Premier League at the moment. I think for both teams, it's going to be a welcome distraction because for the Premier League, for both of them, let's be honest, they've been absolutely bang average. And, obviously, Bournemouth don't really have the sort of financial resources to be overachieving the way that they have done over the last few years. But for us, it's been a season to forget. And to be honest, I just want this season to be over. Hopefully, though, the FA Cup can give us a little bit of cheer. So I will go into a bit of the preview of today's game. Bournemouth, to give you an idea, have won the same amount of games as Arsenal this season in the Premier League, which is absolutely mad if you think about the calibre of club that we are. No disrespect to Bournemouth, but it's not really been working for us at the moment, and obviously been a bit of a stop-start season. This is our third manager with Mikel Arteta now manager. And it's just been a bit of a distracted season all up. There's been player issues and it's just not really gone our way, but I am confident that we should be able to get the job done. And Bournemouth, on the other hand, yes, they had a good win last week. I think it was a 3-1 win against Brighton, but yeah, they've seemed like a team that have lacked inspiration. They've had a lot of big players out, had a lot of young players that have had to step up, and it's just not really worked for them this season. We have played them twice this season already. We had a 1-0 win at home, which I believe was a David Luiz header off a corner, I think it was. We were very uninspiring that day. This was the signs for me that Emery was starting to lose the dressing room. Actually, that particular game was one of them. Because, yeah, we did beat Bournemouth. However, the way that we played and the lack of chances that we created was a bit embarrassing. Particularly because of how strong we're supposed to be at home and how Bournemouth have been very average away from home this year. It was a very poor performance and we weren't creating chances, and that was sort of the beginning of the end for Emery, for me. And we've also played them at Vitality Stadium in a 1-1 draw where Aubameyang did get a goal in the second half. We were a little bit flat that day. It was one of Arteta's first games as manager. I think it may have been his first game as manager, actually. And, there was some good signs in that game, but things were still very, very new. And Aubameyang bailed us out of trouble this game. But we have no Aubameyang again, as he is still serving his suspension. This will be the last match of his suspension. He has got 3 games. David Luiz, now I'm not exactly sure on this. I thought that David Luiz would serve a 3-game suspension. However, it seems to be that he looks like he will only be serving the 1 game. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he definitely will not be playing this game. And in some respects, that is, I'm just having a look now, that is a bit of a loss for us because he's been one of our best players under Mikel Arteta this season, if not the best player, actually. It's him and Xhaka for me that have been, and Torreira that have been the best 3 outstanding players. Maybe you could throw Martinelli in the mix, but he's been brilliant. I mean, he's looks a composed figure for someone that hasn't really never been known for that composed sort of figure. He's won a lot of tackles. He's been good in the air. He's offered a lot going forward in a way that we can sort of carry the ball forward, and he offers a lot with a lot of the diagonal long balls to our wingers, particularly down that left-hand side where we've had Kolasinac and we've had Aubameyang a lot of the season. But no Kolasinac either. So from what I'm expecting, it's going to be a team that's going to be rotated a little bit. We've had quite a few games over the last couple of weeks or so. We've had a busy Christmas period. We played Chelsea on Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was, and we played on the weekend before that as well against Sheffield. So I think it's going to rest quite a lot of players, and we're going to see a few young players come in. And I will go through the predicted lineup for you today. So goalkeeper, I think Martinez will start in goals. I think Martinez has been very good this season when he's come in. He looks a lot more matured. I think his loan at Reading last season gave him a bit of first team game time that he desperately needed. And Martinez, I remember seeing him come through, and the game that I particularly remember him coming through, and I think this was his debut, it was the 7-5 crazy game against Reading in the Carabao Cup. He looked a goalkeeper that had a lot of potential reflex-wise, but just lacked that sort of maturity and positioning. This has changed over the years, and he's put some solid performances in the Europa League this season. A competition that you wouldn't have thought he would be very much tested in, but because of the way we've defended this season and all the Europa League games were under Emery, it doesn't one under Lundberg. It doesn't really surprise me that he's had a lot to do, and he's made a lot of key saves this season. He was actually very good against Leeds. Leeds were absolutely dominating us in the first half. Martinez made a couple of crucial saves, and ultimately, excuse me, kept it at 0-0 at half time. We ended up winning the game thanks to a Reece Nelson finish in the 6-yard box. But he's been very good, and the Europa League's been a good opportunity for our second string goalkeepers to get a run. Obviously, it was Cech before, who was when he was still at the club, but now Martinez is our second choice goalkeeper. And you know what? In the scheme of things, for other second choice goalkeepers these big clubs can have, I think Martinez is actually a very good goalkeeper. At times underrated. He's quite a strong physical frame, and he's not bad with the ball at his feet either. So I'm actually quite confident if Leno was to get injured, although Leno has been exceptional this season. I'm actually quite confident that someone like Martinez could do a job and step in. Right back, we're going to go with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now, you would have seen in a previous video that I did saying, is Maitland-Niles better than Bellerin? I am not going to get carried away with Bellerin because I don't want people to think that I'm hating, but the first half against Chelsea, he was about a 3 out of 10. He constantly gave the ball away too many times. He had a much better second half. He put more of a shift in, made a few more crucial tackles, and ultimately, as everyone knows, he scored the equaliser in that game with a fantastic left-footed finesse shot in the bottom left corner, which no one really expected to go in, but it just sort of crept in there. But I'm not going to get carried away. And, you know, a lot of Arsenal fans and our fan base tend to get carried away about Hector Bellerin being a future captain and, you know, he's got so much pace down that right-hand side. I still think he's lost a lot of his pace, and I think even in the Chelsea game at times he got found out pace-wise. He is not as quick as what people think he is now. He was, I'm not going to dispute that, but I still think that Hector Bellerin is not the player that all Arsenal fans make him out to be. But going back to what I was saying about Maitland-Niles starting this game, it's a very good opportunity for him. I think it's very good that we've got some competition for places on that right-hand side. I think Bellerin and Maitland-Niles is a very equal level. I still think Maitland-Niles is the better right back. I think he's a lot better defensively. But he deserves the opportunity, and funnily enough, I actually thought it was the wrong call to play Bellerin against Chelsea, particularly for his first game. I do think in some respects we got lucky that game, although we did show a lot of character and fight towards the end of the second half. However, I just think that Maitland-Niles is still the better right back, and I do think that it's fantastic that they have that competition. Because of Bellerin playing last game and having a lack of game time, I think Maitland-Niles will start at the right-hand side of the fence. I'm going to put Holding in as our first choice centre-back for this game alongside Socrates. Now, Holding has not played a lot of football lately. When he has played, he's been pretty dreadful this season. I think his last performance was maybe the Leeds game, and he just looked a lot out of his depth. He was misplacing a lot of passes. He just looked lost out there. He seemed to be lacking a lot of match fitness and was lacking particularly that composure that a lot of Arsenal fans know that he has, particularly with the ball at his feet. Holding is a player that was a key sort of figure before he got injured when Emery was still manager. And rightly so for Emery, I thought this was the right call at the time. Rob Holding was going to be our starting centre back for the season, and rightly so, because the way he was performing before that was very positive, and I still think he can get to that level, but he's running out of time. I think this is a crucial 6 months for him if he gets a few games. And I still think he has the potential to break into this centre back pairing of David Luiz and Socrates. I am wondering with the impending sort of signing of Mari coming in, Felipe Mari or Pablo Mari, I think it is. I keep forgetting this guy's name. I'm really sorry, guys. I get him confused for another guy. It's Pablo Mari. Pablo Mari. I'm wondering what Holding's opportunities sort of would be. Only time will tell, but this will be a big opportunity to particularly show Arteta what he is made of. I'm going with Socrates next to him. Socrates has been missing the last 2 to 3 games with an illness, and I think he's actually performed relatively well without being outstanding since Arteta has come in. I think it's another good opportunity for him to get some game time under his belt, regardless of who comes in or whatnot in that centre back role. I think Socrates and Luiz is still our number one pairing at the centre backs, and I don't really necessarily rate either of them massively, but I do believe that they have shown a lot more potential, and rightly so, because let's be real, Luiz and Socrates are very experienced centre backs. Socrates has almost won a Champions League, he's won a Bundesliga. Luiz has won the Champions League, has won Premier Leagues, he's won the French League, he's played in the World Cup. So it didn't make sense to me as to why these two players were not performing at the beginning of the season. However, they've both stepped up massively, and I think a lot of it is down to the assuredness of David Luiz at that centre-back role. It's made Socrates look more comfortable. He starts for me in the game against Bournemouth. Because of our lack of options at left back, although we did have Kazawa linked to the club, I am going to go with Saka again at the left back role, who I think against Chelsea and Sheffield was very strong. I thought he was one of our strongest players against Sheffield, and I thought he was pretty good against Chelsea as well. He still has that mistake in him being a young player, particularly playing out of position. Saka is an attacking mid or a left winger. The fact that he's playing left back and looking so comfortable in that role can show a lot about his footballing intelligence to be able to step into that role so casually. Maitland-Niles, I don't think, had that sort of adaptability when coming in at right back, so it's very positive to see Saka looking very comfortable at that left back role. He offers a lot going down the left-hand side, although not as much as Kolasinac, and he is positionally quite good and has the pace to be able to get back if, for example, we were on the break. And knowing what Bournemouth are like, they like a good counter-attack, especially our left and the right backs have to be aware if they're going to bomb forward, Bournemouth will look to break down the wings. Centre mid or defensive mid. Now, this is going to be tough for me because I think Xhaka is probably not going to start this game, so it's going to be interesting to see who we do play in those three centre mid roles. We're going to go over the 4-4-3, by the way, if I didn't mention that at the start of the video. DM, although he has played a lot of football the last couple of games, I still think Lucas Torreira is going to be starting this game at defensive midfield. We don't really have a replacement DM. Guendouzi can play that role, but I think he's more suited to an anchor role, not necessarily maybe a deep-lying playmaker, not necessarily a defensive midfielder. I think that's sort of an area that we need to strengthen if Lucas Torreira was to get injured, because from my perspective, the team is nowhere near as defensively sound with Lucas Torreira out of the side. We saw that when he got injured in the first half against Crystal Palace, that we were opened up completely in the second half. So he is, for me, the key factor in our resurgence under Arteta, because he was obviously playing a lot out of position under Emery. But for me, Lucas Torreira is that key figure in this team. And you know what? A lot of people don't rate him after his average form. I still think he can be one of the best, is one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League. Just needs that consistent run of game and that confidence in the manager playing in that role. It's been excellent. He starts the game for me today. I'm going to go with Guendouzi. Guendouzi has not been next. Guendouzi has not really been a starter under Arteta. He sort of stagnated in some respects in comparison to how he started his career at Arsenal. I don't think taking him out of the side is a bad option. I don't think Guendouzi generally being out of the side, it's not like it's stagnating his growth, because he's already had massive opportunities at Arsenal Football Club. I think Guendouzi, when coming in this season, has been decent without being exceptional. Obviously, his first couple of months, till maybe around October, he was probably our best player. he has stagnated a little bit. It looks like he's a little bit low on confidence. It looked like he lost a lot of confidence under the Emery reign, particularly towards the end. And I don't think Arteta necessarily sees him as the biggest part of his plans, although clearly still a part of his plans in some respects, because when Torreira or Xhaka comes off, Guendouzi is the first player on. A player that a lot of Arsenal fans should still be patient with, because I know a lot of Arsenal fans get frustrated with his lack of positional awareness and how he can recklessly give the ball away sometimes. But we still have to remember Guendouzi was a shortlist in the the Golden Boy Award or whatever it's called. He is still 20 years old. The guy has a lot of potential. He's got a France call up. We need to be patient with this player because there is a huge player in him, potentially a world-class player. I think he's still sort of trying to find his best area of the midfield. He can do a bit of a jack of all trades in respect of creating, defending, playing as that sort of deep-lying playmaker role or as an anchor, but I don't think he's mastered necessarily one role, and I think this is going to be really crucial for his growth over the next few seasons. Now, this is a tough one for me. I am going to go with Joe Willock as attacking midfield, and the reason why I say that is because although Ceballos has not played any game time under Arteta, pretty much the only player that has not, all these rumours of Ceballos leaving and Ceballos on Bellerin's Instagram sort of hinting that he was leaving quite clearly sort of indicates to me that he's got no more future of Arsenal. For me, it's a little bit disappointing. Although I don't think he is the player that a lot of Arsenal fans think he is. A lot of people were calling him the next Cazorla after an earlier game this season. Can't actually remember who that was against now. But he hasn't really got as many opportunities after his injury. I thought he was performing about a 6 out of 10 before he got injured. He had a really good second half against Tottenham. He had that home game earlier in the season where he was about a 10 out of 10. Really sorry I don't remember that, guys. I can't remember who we played against home. And he had some okay spells off the bench, but he was dreadful in other games. He was dreadful against Liverpool. However, what I noticed is that Emery was playing him sometimes as a defensive midfield, which really baffled me, and I think he's better going forward as a more attacking sort of playmaker sort of role. But just from what I've seen and the lack of game time that he's got, sort of indicates to me that his future is back at Real Madrid. I think he will go back there at the end of this window. Whether he'll play at Real Madrid or they're loaning out again, I don't really know. But it just doesn't seem to be like a player that's going to get any more opportunities at Arsenal. I could be very wrong with this. All these rumours about Ceballos leaving could be rubbish. But at the same time, when he posts something like that on Bellerin's Instagram saying, I'm going to miss your left-footed curlers in respect to Bellerin's goal, sort of indicates to me that his future lies elsewhere, and he might be on the bench, but I don't think he will actually be playing in this game. Joe Willock is a player that started the season very promisingly. He had a very, very good game against Newcastle, which is round one of the season, and he scored that banger against Liverpool. And there is a lot of potential in Joe Willock, but similar to Guendouzi, I think he's a player that hasn't necessarily found his best position yet. He can play as an attacking midfield, which he has done this season, although I do think in that role he's a little bit lost and he doesn't get himself involved in the game. I think Joe Willock is a lot better when he's playing as a more of a ball carrier midfielder, and he has done that better this season when playing in that position. Although he is creative, he's not exclusively creative. He's not one of those players that has that sort of playmaker vibe to him or aspect to him. Not one of those players that he can cut between the lines, but he's not one of those players that can play a delicate through ball. But it's a big opportunity for him because I think his midfield sort of opportunities are limited. Yeah, if Ceballos leaves, maybe he will get more opportunities, but right now, I think we should still be looking at loaning this guy out and getting game time maybe in the Championship or a lower league Premier League side. Has potential, but I'm not entirely convinced that he has it to make it at Arsenal just yet. But because of Ceballos not looking like he has an Arsenal future, I think it will be Joe Willock that will start as attacking midfielder. Out left, I'm going to go Martinelli, which, let's be real, Martinelli is our biggest success story of the season. What a composed finish against Chelsea. Although that run was exceptional, he did have a bit of luck with the Kante sort of fall. But for me, it was his finish and how composed he looked and gave the keeper the eyes and placed it at the other end, which shows me that this guy is going to be a world-class footballer and is going to be a household name within 5 to 10 years. I can already see it with potential. Most importantly, I can see it with his maturity. He's very mature for someone 18 years old and is not afraid when it comes to those big games. Someone like a Willock, and I don't want to single him out, but a Willock would have got lost in the game against Chelsea, whereas Martinelli sort of has that composure and that awareness to be able to not only put a shift in defensively, but always be in the right positions moving forward. Not only does he get himself in goal scoring positions, but he can take the ball out wide. What I've noticed in the video, what I noticed with him in the video that I did about Martinelli maybe about a week ago, check that out, is that he can cut the ball back when he's playing on the wing, when crossing the ball. Similarly, he can also put a ball in looking for the header. He's very versatile with his final product, and for me, he's been the standout player and the surprise player this season. So Martinelli will start for me at the left wing. Right wing, I'm going to go with Nicolas Pepe. Now, Nicolas Pepe is a player that has disappointed and also shined this season. I thought the last few games he's been very disappointing. I thought against Chelsea he put in a good effort but was pretty non-existent. I thought against Sheffield he was probably the worst player on the pitch. The last good performance we saw from Nicolas Pepe was against Man United. And let's be real, this guy has the potential to be one of the best wingers in the world, if not the best winger. I think he's got a lot of abilities there to suggest that he can fulfill his potential, particularly the potential that he was showing at Lille last season. But I think mentally there's something not quite there with him. I think he lacks game maturity sometimes, and he often makes the wrong option when to take a player on or when to play the pass. His crossing is decent and his set pieces are very good. But what I've also noticed about Nicolas Pepe is that he doesn't seem to be right now suiting Arsenal's style of play. Nicolas Pepe flourished in a Lille system that relied purely on very direct counter-attack that ultimately stemmed and started from down the wings. That suited him because it gave him more space to run at defenders and take players on, which I think is his strength, and it put him in more goal-scoring opportunities because more often than not, he would beat the first man. Right now, when he's playing at Arsenal, obviously Arsenal prefer to play more of a possession-based game, and I don't think that's suiting his style of play at the moment. So, yeah, he really needs to find his form, and I am still being patient with him, but when you see sort of players like Martinelli come from the third division of Brazil and perform better than him, it does make you wonder why Pepe isn't performing at a higher level right now, although I still think we need to give him the season at least. I think there's still a massive player in there. And up front, I am going to go with Lacazette, a player that has been widely criticised across the Arsenal fan base at the moment. I have said, and I am still sticking to my guns here, that he is asked to play a different role under Arteta, more as that Bobby Roberto Firmino sort of role. One of my first videos I did was about, is Lacazette our new Roberto Firmino? Make sure you check that out. It's a very informative video, particularly about this subject. But yeah, and what I noticed and why I think that is because in the post-match press conference after the Chelsea game, Arteta said something along the lines is he was very impressed with Lacazette's work rate. He didn't really particularly mention his lack of goals, although a lot of managers wouldn't single a player out like that. It sort of indicates to me that even if he doesn't score, he's not very disappointed in Lacazette's game, which makes me think he is asking him to play more of a Roberto Firmino sort of role, particularly because how Lacazette always leads the press, and he does it very, very well. And not only that, of course, he can link up very well with our wingers and our midfielders, particularly because when he has his back to defenders and his back to the opposition goalkeeper, he looks very strong in those areas, particularly for a player that's quite short in size. But I also think he'll start this game because we need a goal. I think if Reiss Nelson was starting, maybe he would have gone with Martinelli and Pepe and Reiss Nelson as the front three. But simply because Reiss Nelson is injured, I think that Lacazette will come in. And let's be real, Bournemouth are a good side, but this is a massive opportunity for Lacazette to break his goal-scoring drought. He's got a very disappointing amount of goals this season. I'm pretty sure it's under 10. Prediction-wise, I'm going to go with a 2-0 Arsenal. I think we will get the job done. I don't think we'll be entirely convincing, simply because we have a lot of players that I think will rotate, and I've got no problem with that. But because of Bournemouth's form this season, I think we will get the job done at the end of the day. And that's pretty much it for today's video. I will be doing a video again tomorrow of a raw reaction, which is as soon as the game finishes. I do these videos now of the Bournemouth Arsenal game, so please tune in for that one. Thanks for watching my video, guys. This is APFC. I look forward to hearing from you soon.